well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Second Amendment.
Today's podcast is just going to be Leigh and myself, and we are going to fill you guys in on a little bit of what we experienced last weekend when we went to the Gun Owners of America Goals event in Des Moines, Iowa. For those of you that don't know, Goals stands for Gun Owners Advocacy and Leadership Summit. I went to this event last year. Leigh and I talked about it a little bit. This was Leigh's first time. Leigh, what did you think of the event?
Well, the event itself, I really enjoyed. Of course, the highlight for me was listening to a few speakers that I really enjoy, but then also the vendor event. But then what also surprised me is that the people in the organization at Goals were really fun. They were really caring. We went there I went there just as a volunteer, and I felt like I was treated really well and just had a great time working and helping in that event. Also, the people that came in, and I heard this mentioned a few times out there. Somebody said, our people, and then they said gun people, and then I think that same person said, that they're polite and that they're courteous,
considerate.
And considerate. Yeah. So it was a really good experience in so many ways. And there's so many things that we can talk about. And I've been really, we've talked about the fact that my parents have been, struggling with their aging, and how much it's taken away from aspects of my life. One of the aspects that it really took away for me is training. And training myself, training other people in personal protection, and it's something that I love. And this really sort of reinvigorated that. And plus, I got to travel out there with you, and so I'm still sort of giddy with all the good things that happened from the Goals event. But let's talk about as much as we can in this podcast, and I hope the listeners find it interesting. And at the end of the day, I hope that they'll support some of the organizations, especially Goals, some of the businesses that we saw. I hope they'll support them, and I hope it gets them even more politically active for our Second Amendment rights, because we have a lot of challenges still, even though there's been a lot of good things happening.
There have been a lot of recent victories that are exciting, and it's good to see some traction and a little bit of momentum going toward restoring the right that the Second Amendment is supposed to protect. So that's very exciting. I would like to just kind of give a brief synopsis. Some people probably don't know what Goals is. So it is a 2-day event over the weekend, and Gun Owners of America puts it on, and there's what I would consider
yearly, right? It's a yearly event.
I believe this year was the third year. It might have been the fourth. Last year I went to Knoxville. That was my first time. And then this year in Des Moines. They are doing it again next year in Tampa, Florida. So if it hasn't been ongoing for many, many years, it looks like that is what they want to do, which is great. And I look at it essentially 3 aspects of the event. And one is there's a main stage where there's several different speakers, whether it be a politician. General Michael Flynn was one of the speakers. That was really great to see him. There's influencers in the firearm and Second Amendment world. And then there's some of the people from Goals, kind of enlightening people in terms of what they've done, what they're trying to do, what the horizon looks like. That's on the main stage. And
can I jump in right there?
Absolutely.
One of the things that surprised me about it, I've never gone to an event like that, and going to this particular one, what I found interesting is that those speakers were like 10-minute intervals.
Right.
So I didn't know what to think of that at first, but it's great because you're not stuck listening to someone for an hour.
You're kind of jumping in and out who you want to see.
Yeah,
There's breaks in between.
Yeah, and you get their best shot.
It's very succinct.
They gotta refine their message to that approximate 10-minute block. I don't know. Did you notice that any of the speakers spoke for longer, or were those always a breakout event?
The longest person I saw on the main stage, I want to say, was under 25 minutes, between 20 and 25 minutes, and that's that.
I think that's great because you could still go enjoy other things.
Yep.
Like you said, take breaks, get the message.
Right.
You could listen to a little bit of the next person's message and decide if that's what you want to hear or not.
Right.
And so, and if you didn't like the last guy, you could just wait another 10 minutes and find someone who you do enjoy.
Right. That was one aspect of the event. Another aspect is the exhibit floor. And I believe this year it was approximately 150,000 square feet of, I call them vendor booths, different manufacturers, different distributors, advocacy groups, all of that sort of thing, and a traditional, what I call like a convention type exhibit. You walk around and you can stop at any of the booths, meet people, talk to people, check out products. And then a third aspect was on one of the floors, they had what I call workshops or individual speakers. And those were a little bit longer. I think the shortest one was like a half hour, but most of them were around an hour. And those are very enlightening, and they tell you specifically what they're focusing on. And I like that a lot because there's so many different avenues that this Second Amendment environment can go, and it can be overwhelming, but when there's something that you want to hone in on, it's nice to be able to step into a room and you're with some other people to have conversation with. It's a learning session, and that was great. So there's a little bit of something for everyone, and it's over the course of like I said, the 2 days, but it's nice that there's those three different aspects, and it's not just a convention hall, or it's not just go to an event and you're sitting there, like you said, for hours on end, listening to speakers. With that being my second year, I'm really excited, looking forward to the third year already.
And what I really, and I don't know if this has been, obviously being my first one and gone as a volunteer, but I know we were helping check people in. And I thought the really cool thing is that the price of admission was basically joining gold. Right. So you're becoming a member and you're attending. Do you know if, as a member, was that then a free event if you were a member prior?
Yes. And that's essentially...
It's awesome.
It is awesome because I've paid $10 to go to a local gun show that's at like a, say, an American Legion or a VFW hall.
Yeah.
$10. And I don't mind paying the $10. It typically benefits some local organization after, the proceeds do. But I'm done there in 90 minutes, usually.
Yeah.
This, the $25, you could pay a $25 admission fee, or you can join the GOA, Gun Owners America, for a year for $25, and that membership gets you free admission. Yeah. And that's a great transition into why it makes so much more sense to just join GOA specifically for that event. But then also, and this is really, really important, and I hope that if anybody takes anything away from this podcast, it's a little bit of the following, and that is becoming a member of organizations such as Gun Owners of America is, to me, monumentally important for a couple different reasons. One is supporting an organization such as GOA supports them and what they're doing to try and fully restore our right to bear arms. And it's their tagline, but it's to me, it's so important. They are no compromise. And I've seen in the past where sometimes on social media, there will be a bill that maybe advances the Second Amendment fight a little bit, and then GOA will not give their endorsement, or they were talking about it and then they decide not to. And they've caught a little bit of heat at times in social media. And what it always comes down to that I've observed is that there was a compromise in there. A politician said, we will do this, but we have to not do this. We have to concede this. And the Gun Owners America stand is, no, if there is compromise, we are not behind it. And I agree with that philosophy so much that probably helps me understand why they haven't endorsed certain bills that maybe do advance the movement a little bit. But one of the workshops I went to out there was explanation as to why that is. And essentially that comes down to, with politicians, once you start compromising, once you let them believe that there is some give in your philosophy, in your principles, you will have to give again. And there is no give. Either this advances the right to bear arms, it gets back to where we all think it should be, which is virtually zero restriction, absolute Second Amendment right, protection to keep and bear arms. And if the bill does not advance toward that without compromise, then they are not going to endorse it. And I love that. And that's why I've thrown my support behind the Gun Owners of America, because I don't want to compromise. And I don't want to compromise in any of my civil rights. Right of free speech. This is shooting off on a tangent a little bit, but you and I have spoken a little bit in the past that there's a lot of people that believe hate speech should be against the law. And I 100% am against that.
I am too.
Let people say whatever they want to say.
Even if you find it offensive.
It's almost, not almost, I consider it more important to allow them to say it, even if you're offended by it.
Yeah, you've had that discussion with me.
It has to be, because once somebody gets to decide what is hate or offensive, once that becomes subjective, the sky's the limit in what they can start considering offensive or subjective, and that's where you start to lose that right. And that's what has happened with the right to bear arms, is that at some point, under maybe the guise of safety or practicality or whatever term people wanted to use, people have been okay with giving up the right to bear arms. And I am not.
Yeah, it's one of the things I think that in my teaching career and teaching social studies, I really like to talk about what it means to be human, especially when we talk about ancient man and things like that. And one of the amazing abilities of humans is that we have the gift of complicated speech, and that allows us to let another human being know our mind. So I can't read your mind, Jordana, but you can communicate to me and tell me what's on your mind. And as soon as I start censoring what you're able to say, then I'm able to prevent you from showing the world who you are and what you are.
And that to me is critically important for a couple reasons, but also if I'm offended by what somebody says, then I'm getting a good picture into that person's mind, how they think. And I can decide that I don't care for that person and I don't want to hang out with that person and possibly not talk to that person again. But if that person felt as though they couldn't express themselves because they might get a ticket or a violation because they committed some sort of violation of hate speech.
It's a form of mental slavery.
It really is. But then I don't know truly who that person is.
Yeah.
And I may end up spending years associating with somebody that I didn't necessarily care for, but I didn't know who they were because they weren't allowed to express themselves.
Yeah.
And on top of that,
I prefer to know.
I prefer to know, absolutely. And on top of that, I can't imagine the bulk of society wants to go through life not being able to express who they are. I know I don't.
Nope.
So
I think we're going to do it anyway. We all have like insecurities and things like that where we might not want to share those thoughts. And in some cases, it's probably good, right? That we keep certain things to ourselves, right? But at the same time, how much do we want someone else doing that to us? And maybe we're going a little far afield, but
right. But
circling it back to the Second Amendment is that that it's I don't want to compromise First Amendment rights, and I don't want to compromise Second Amendment rights. And I do subscribe to the theory that the people that created this country were brilliant in a way that we haven't seen for generations. And they chose to put the first Bill of Rights being the freedom of speech and religion.
Yeah, and
then the second was to keep and bear arms. And I think I do agree that there was a reason that number one is number one and number two is number two, because those are the two most important.
You're not alone in that philosophy. So, but that's why I'm such an absolutist with the Second Amendment. Some of our conversations in the past on another podcast with Joe Schiavone over at Voodoo Firearms, he's also an absolutist. I believe his phrase was, "I think you should be able to own a fucking tank." I believe is what he had said in one.
I think you're right.
If the military can have it, then we are supposed, under the right that the Second Amendment is supposed to protect. If the military could have it, then we should be able to have it to be able to combat our government if it becomes tyrannical. And like you said, circling back, that is why the no compromise philosophy is such an important part of Gun Owners of America, and why they've earned my support, or they're deserving of my support. And I feel very, very strongly about that. And that's one important aspect of becoming a member of the GOA. But it goes a little bit further than that even. Especially recently, we talked about how many little victories that the Second Amendment world has seen in courts. And when you're a member of, I don't want to say 100% because I don't know all the legalities of it. I want to preface it with that. But whether it's Second Amendment Foundation, Gun Owners of America, NRA, there's several others, Firearm Owners Coalition or Policy, I believe. And I should know because I believe I'm a member of all of those that I just mentioned. When they bring forth a lawsuit and they're victorious in that lawsuit, as a member, you were part of that plaintiff group. And whatever victory they see then carries in to you as an individual because you were part of that court case. And that is a really, really significant deal. I can't imagine a better way to spend $25 for a year than to being a member of the Gun Owners of America. And I'm not saying that flippant or offhanded. $25 is maybe 2 meals at McDonald's. And for that, you have a annual membership to a gun organization that not only is fighting for you on such a large scale, but you also reap the direct benefits of that fight.
And I think toward the end, maybe on the trip back, I sort of mentioned, or maybe the trip out, I don't remember at what point, but I mentioned that, I felt like Gun Owners of America hadn't been in the news lately as much as some of the other organizations. There have been a lot of victories and upcoming promises of victories, and I hadn't heard the name as much as I had in the past. Well, that changed at just a day or two after the event, right? There was the big victory on the NFA. And I don't understand all the consequences of that particular victory. But I do know it affects NFA items, and that was the Gun Owners of America, that was their case.
Right. And I believe, if I recall correctly, and I don't know all the intricacies, but if I recall correctly, there was a 7-day stay to give the government time to respond, and we're still within that 7 days. So I'm not going to do a deep dive into that until things become what I'm going to say is like official.
Yeah.
So I don't want to dive into that yet. Maybe on the next podcast. But yeah, that's a really big victory, and they were involved with some of the stuff going on in Virginia with the assault weapons ban, where the federal court said that was a direct infringement, that and the magazine capacity. So, boy, there's probably about a dozen victories that I'm happy to see, and it's good to see that momentum, and it gives us a lot of stuff to talk about in the future. And one of our past guests, Bill Kirk, or William K. Kirk of Washington Gun Law, we saw out there, talked to him briefly, not a real long conversation, but him and I both mentioned and agreed that we have to smile and be happy with the little victories, because they seemed so far and few for such a long time, the victories, that it's good to see. I feel like the pendulum is starting to swing the other way, and I'm hoping that continues. But the only way it continues is, one, support the organizations. And something that was a big theme at the event that I'm sure you heard as much as I did, because we separated quite a bit, but people have to get out there and vote. The voter turnout a lot of times is around 25%, and that is remarkably low. To me, it's extremely disappointing, but votes really do matter. And the firearm community is so significant that if we can just convince some of our fellow citizens to vote, that these victories can continue. And I want to say this, and this may not be hugely popular, but I'm going to say it anyway. Even if you disagree, I still want you to vote, because everybody's voice should be heard. Everybody should take pride in the fact that they are participating in the process. And when you vote, you, in my eyes, you have a more legitimate argument, because you're trying to do something about whatever it is you say is important to you. And if it's
You're in the arena, you're participating.
Absolutely. And if it's important to you, then participate and try and do something about it. That was the reason this whole podcast started, is because we got tired of just you and I talking about it with either one another or at our houses with our significant others and in family and whatnot. But go vote. Even if you don't agree with everything, you're never going to agree with everything I'm saying or Leigh's saying or a politician is saying, but drag a few people to the polling center and go vote. So that's a little bit about what Goals was about. That's a little bit about what the GOA is about. So my question to you about goals was, did you have a favorite event or booth or interaction when you were out there?
There were so many things that stood out to me. I have a whole list of things that I want to talk about, mostly having to do with people first, and then ideas and products second.
Okay.
But there's two that really stand out, and the first one is down in the vendors area. There were lots of booths, and one of the that I stopped by just out of curiosity was an organization called Mighty Oaks, and Mighty Oaks was originated by one of the speakers and authors that appeared at Goals, Chad Robichaux. I'm probably butchering his last name.
He'll forgive you.
But Chad was a force reconnaissance Marine that did multiple tours in Afghanistan and began to struggle with post-traumatic stress. And he went through a process of recovery that involved a church that I think was in his community. I believe he's from Texas. Check me on that if I'm wrong. Unless he's got that sort of Cajun last name, maybe it's Louisiana. But regardless, it's less important than what happened. Working with those Christian pastors, they developed this organization called Mighty Oaks, and they provide, I guess, for lack of a better word, retreats for veterans that are fully paid for.
Interesting.
And you can go and visit those and find resources for healing while they're there. I think they have 4 locations throughout the United States. The guy I talked to at the table was a combat veteran himself and had struggled deeply, and reached out to me, and here I'm just a guy, but as soon as he heard, discovered that we had that commonality of me being a combat veteran as well, he instantly said, you should come, and just was right away like, do it. There is a waiting list, and so I bring it up for 2 reasons. One, if anyone out there is able to help support an organization like that, I encourage you to research it and find out about it.
Sure.
But it sounds amazing, and certainly I'm sure that they could use your help. I plan to reach out to them. I mentioned that I did really well with post-traumatic stress. I had a stable home that helped me, but I did need some healing after my experiences. And but I'm at a point in my life where I would like to help others. And so I mentioned to him that I would go, but I would go with the idea that if I could help in some sort of way, that I would do that. So that's one organization I think deserves
a lot of mention.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
'Cause that's about people. It's not about like a product. It's not
absolutely
about the thrill I got from the compensator, the whole story. This is where the rubber really meets the road.
And that's an important
saving
aspect.
souls, right? Like
100%.
helping somebody thrive.
But that's something to point out that is important aspect of going to an event like Goals, is that I had never heard of that organization before.
Yeah.
And getting back to the people that we met that were I'm going to call them attendees, some of the nicest, most polite people, considerate people. And I don't have to get into a bunch of detail, but at one point on Monday, I thought I may have misplaced an item that may have fallen out of my pocket while at the event. And the first thing that popped in my head was that I know nobody took it. And I'm also confident that if I dropped it, somebody returned it. Yeah. Because those were the type of people that were attending the event. It doesn't escape my mind how considerate, fun, courteous the group of people that we were surrounded by, how great those people are. So you get to spend the weekend hanging out with people like that, but then you also learn about this organization that their goal is to help and treat people long term, and the ability to spread the word about that organization and support that organization. Without an event like Goals, who knows how long it would have been, if ever, that you came across that group. And I am going to do some individual research on it, but that is exactly the type of organization that I feel deserves support. Like you said, healing the people that have helped us. What is a higher priority?
Yeah.
I can't think of many. Leigh, if you want to tell us again the name of that organization for anybody that didn't catch it at the beginning, because I'm sure plenty of people that heard what we said about them are going to want to look them up. But if you can go ahead and let the people know name of the organization and maybe how to reach out to them.
Yeah, go find Mighty Oaks, and you can get information. If you know a veteran, a combat veteran, they also help first responders and medical personnel that might have post-traumatic stress. You can reach them at info@mightyoaksprograms.org.
And I'll make sure that we put that on the 2A Today Facebook page to make it a little bit easier for anybody that wants to reach out to them, because I'd be willing to bet that there'd be more than a couple people that would want to support such an organization. That's
Thank
great.
you, Joe.
Absolutely. What was
John Lovell of Warrior Poet Society. I've been a fan of his for a long time. I've been a member of War Poet for years now. I'm not super active, but I always appreciate him. He was at Ranger Battalion, and so there's that connection as well. And I just try to support him because of that. John gave his 10-minute speech, and I found it really interesting because he's really concerned about socialism and communism and the allure that it's having on young, especially urban, but I think it is even extends beyond that.
it's pretty significant right
Pretty
now.
significant, and he gave a great talk on that, and so his whole 10 minutes was devoted to that particular subject, which I found surprising. And so it was and a lot of things. So I would say folks out there, I don't know that Warrior Poet Society, support the organization. Subscribe to his YouTube channel if you can, because you'll just find it great information.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's lots of reasons, but also take a look online at James Lindsay's work, and he talks a lot about the history of socialism and where these ideas come from. And I would like to bring that out to our audience as well, to be on the lookout for that kind of thinking, because I do think it is antithetical to our American way of life.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. And I didn't get to meet John while we were there. Heard a lot of what he had to say. I've seen plenty of his stuff online, but him and his wife just seem like absolutely wonderful people. I mean, just the type of people that could be your neighbors and just hang out with them and really, really enjoy their company. They just seem like great people. But again, that was the bulk of the people that we met the whole weekend.
Yeah,
So that was pretty fantastic.
true that.
What else?
What about you? You want me to keep going?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna let you do Steyer.
Okay.
Since you have gonna have a
Possibly.
connection there.
Yeah.
But I got to go through that vendor section, and I really found all of the vendors went out of their way to spend the time to communicate with me about all their products or some of their products.
Yep.
I didn't experience that at all of the vendor showcases that I've been to.
Sure.
And this one, for whatever reason, just seemed to click right. And I don't know if that was because of me or if it was because of them,
Right.
or it was because a little of both. But I found them to be very laid back, very helpful, very welcoming, very opening, very generous with their time.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think I had mentioned we did a episode because I went to I went to SHOT Show in 2025, and I had a phenomenal time. And everybody that I interacted with was, again, polite and nice. SHOT Show is huge, and it's so busy that I think people are being pulled in so many directions that at times they do have limited time to spend with each person because it is so busy and it's so chaotic. And I don't think that anybody's doing anything intentionally to ignore or brush somebody off. It's just a demanding schedule. And I felt at this event that everybody I was speaking to, if I wanted to stay there and talk to them for another hour, that would have happened.
Yeah.
That it just would have been undivided attention, answering every question, engaged, also very knowledgeable. Everybody that I spoke to and interacted with at any of the booths, I have to give hats off that I think they have a passion for whatever item they had at their booth, because everybody seemed very knowledgeable, and that's also great to see.
Yeah, so running down the list, and if I forget anyone, they're probably not listening, but I apologize to anyone that I'm overlooking. But here's definitely some standouts. Patriot Ordnance, talked to two paisanos over there, Rafael Dominguez and Corey Soriano. Those guys were great. Their company specializes in the AR-15 platform. And they chatted with my wife and I for 20 minutes or so, some of it about firearms and some of it just life in general. But they were two great guys, great weapons over at POF. And so I just wanted to shout out to them because, just like I said, just cool guys doing the work. Got to talk to Gable at Thrill. Gable runs his own training academy. I'm hoping to set up a training with him. I'm gonna reach out to him. I haven't mentioned this to you, but I'm gonna reach out to Gable and see if we can get him up here to teach maybe a firearms class.
Okay.
Maybe we could run it out at the property there.
Yeah, sign me up.
But yeah, Gabe works for Thrill. Thrill does polymer accessories for the AR-15 platform primarily. And if you think of Magpul, you think of sort of like similar products to Magpul, stocks, magazines, things like that. And so the interesting magazine that I was taking a look at, so picture your typical PMag, but picture it with a grip or texturized section on the front part of the magazine that would make it easier to grasp out of a pouch. And so just little tweaks like that with some of their products made it kind of interesting to me. And this guy Gabe was just like, he was awesome. He just,
Grab out of a pouch, or if you have to take it out of the firearm, make it that much easier to get a hold of.
Yep, a positive.
You never know if your hands are sweaty or any sort of fluid or anything on there, and if it makes it that much easier, you're that much more proficient. Absolutely.
Yep. So check out the stuff at Thrill, THRIL, and look for maybe a training in the area with Gable coming up if we can set it up.
That'd be great.
I've always been interested in Swamp Fox. Swamp Fox makes inexpensive optics. They're an American company, but they have a factory that they own themselves in China, which, communist country, not sure if you can own your own factory, but they say they own that it is their factory, and they produce parts for other scope manufacturers they quote unquote said we have heard of,
Gotcha.
without mentioning any names. And I did pick up a 1:6 optic by them with a fiber dot in it, and I'll do a little test and maybe put a review up on the website.
Sure.
And talk about it on a future podcast. But also, again, all three guys over, and I'm going to invite Nick out. He said he'd be willing to do a pod with us.
Oh, no kidding.
So if
Great.
if you're good with that,
100%.
we could have one of the guys from Swamp Fox come on and talk about their line of optics and what they're all about.
I'd be intrigued to ask him about that factory in China.
Yeah, it would be. Wouldn't it really be quite interesting?
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, cool. So that's them. Victos, I've always liked their gear, especially some of their concealed carry bags, sling bags, and stuff like that. They've got a lot of interesting products out on the market that I was looking at. They offer law enforcement and veterans discounts. Also, a great bunch of guys, and they're just from my grandmother's home in Wisconsin, and so I like to support our brothers across the Cheddar Divide.
Yeah.
And
Ironically, I'm in the market right now to get some sort of new bag. And while searching just last night, I was looking at some of their products.
yeah.
So
They've
the
got some
timing of
interesting
that's pretty
stuff.
ironic.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk to you about that too, because
I'll definitely have to pick
it's
your
the
brain on
sickness.
that then.
Yeah.
I'd like to go
What am
back
I
to
missing?
Steyr
Yeah,
Arms.
Steyr. Let's talk about
So,
Steyr. Yes, indeed.
When the assault weapons ban here in Illinois drops, I have committed to purchase a few firearms separated by every couple months, and we're going to do a contest on the podcast here, and a $100 gift card is going to go to the winner, and we can go through the rules as we get closer and whatnot. But I've been holding off purchasing a couple that I'm pretty sure that I want to add to my set, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to wait the almost year that I think it's going to take for this ban to fall, because Steyr at their booth was displaying and showcasing what they're calling and appears to be a very valid competition pistol out of the box that I think will run really, really well. And it feels great. It looks fantastic, which these days, the aesthetics of a firearm, I don't know why, but are important to me.
There were several firearms there that get on display that would get my pulse rising, and that was just from the looks of them, and that was one of them.
I could have gone broke over the weekend if I bought everything that I saw, that it looked fantastic, that felt fantastic, that I could sit there and legitimately say I want. It could have been a very, very expensive weekend, but this was one of them. And the model I'm referring to is the Steyr Arms ATC Rock 6-inch. They also have it available in a 5-inch, but it is a steel frame firearm that is designed specifically for competition. And I didn't do a real deep dive into the whole line, but if I recall correctly, they have basically a base model that's a 5-inch. And then with a couple upgrades, they have their competition 5-inch and then their competition 6-inch. And one of the things I really like about it is that they also have a concealed carry category of firearms. And the interchangeability between being able to replace slides, or I shouldn't say replace, swap and interchange slides, made it very, very appealing to me that you can have the same trigger, the same mechanism, the same grip, everything, and train with a concealed carry firearm that you then simply and quickly swap the slide, and it is then a competition firearm. And the trigger on it felt absolutely fantastic with an incredibly short reset. I didn't measure it, but if I had to guess, I'd say that trigger pull can't be more than 3.5 pounds.
It seems like it would be right there, and a great single action trigger. Like even among single action triggers, it felt particularly good.
With a really short reset, I believe it's adjustable. I would say anybody that's going to possibly want to try and win that $100 gift card to Voodoo Firearms when we start the competition, be on the listen, because chances are pretty good that that's going to be one of those 6 firearms that
All right.
that's going to be in the competition. So when we start that, we start dropping the hints. Maybe make a note now that chances are very good that that's going to be one of them, because I may have to cheat a little bit and buy it early and then throw it in the competition, because I don't know if I want to wait a year before buying that firearm. I was that impressed with it. I like it that much. So
That's exciting.
it is. It's really exciting. And the price point, the MSRP on the ATC Rock 6-inch is $2,600, which is not an inexpensive firearm, but it's not the most expensive firearm out there. And if you know anything about competition firearms, That is not a ridiculous price. That is not something that is from a price point at the top of the pyramid. That is very, very reasonable if the firearm performs the way I think it's going to. And that's MSRP. And we all know that chances are that will be able to be purchased for a couple $100 less than a MSRP. So I'm pretty excited about that one.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. Would you like to discuss, I don't know about being the favorite vendor of the event, but definitely a really good vendor and definitely a really exciting one.
Yeah, I know
which one I'm
exactly
talking
what
about?
you're talking about. So let me tell you my first experience, and I think this was the Saturday. And we got separated because we were both doing volunteer work. And then I went down to the vendor section, and I happened upon Radiant Arms. And I only knew Radiant Arms by their charging handles for ARs and the reputation that they had. Mm-hmm. So they were prominent in that particular niche. But they had a whole wall of items, and I walked up, and they were busy. I think they were like a well-staffed group. I think they had like 5 reps there.
And I have to jump in. I apologize. I don't remember their names. But
I talked to Nate that first day. Nate was not there the second day when we went back.
But I liked all of them.
Yeah.
They were a great group of guys.
So I walked up to Nate and I was just like, "Hey, what's up, Radiant?" And I was like, what do you guys have? You got this whole wall." And he took me from one end to the other. And as you know, my carry gun has been a Glock 43X for
Quite some
time now, and it's been a struggle for me as a very proficient shooter. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but
practice a lot, train a lot.
yeah, I've been doing it for decades and very self-protection oriented. I do train on my own. Receive training professionally and personally. It's been a firearm that I have to work hard in order to shoot the gun in a way that I think is combatively oriented. I have to really focus on all of my fundamentals and be on my aim game. Otherwise, things could easily get away. And it's because the gun is very snappy, and the 9mm with the with a 3-inch,
right,
3-inch-ish barrel, it's tough, and maybe even tougher than some other subcompact guns I've fired. Like it seems to be snappy even among those.
Gotcha.
And so I've long thought about compensating it.
Okay.
I did not know that Radiant had a compensator for it. And living in Illinois, we have a threaded barrel prohibition.
Correct.
And so most of the retrofit compensators for that gun require a threaded barrel, which we cannot do in Illinois.
Completely
so
limits our
that
options.
took off that option for me. So I was just like, well, I'm gonna this is the
what
gun
it is.
I have to train and just be up to the task with that particular firearm. So Nate's going through all the stuff with me, and he goes, and here we've got an afterburner for a Glock 43X, and he goes.
And did you not know about that prior to walking?
I did not know.
Okay,
know.
I didn't realize that.
Did not know. And so I was like, wow. And he goes, yeah, and it doesn't require a threaded barrel. And I'm like, I'm from Illinois. And he's like, well, this would be, and I was like, and I carry a 43X.
He had you at that point.
And so it has their ramjet competition barrel. Mm-hmm. With the afterburner compensator that has a mechanism for attaching it to the front of the barrel without a threaded barrel. So he shows me all the stuff in the Radiant line. We shake hands, and that's dancing in my mind that I would really like to try that barrel. I knew that it was in the upper end of what things cost. Mm-hmm. I knew it was in that $400, $300 to $400 price range. But it was definitely, something that piqued my interest.
Absolutely.
It turns out they had the that's another group, the Gundies.
Oh, the trivia dinner we went to.
The trivia dinner, and they had the raffles.
Great time.
And it turned out that Radiant raffled that Glock 43X And I'm not one for I never win anything, right?
Yeah.
Part of the reason is I don't enter stuff very often, but when I do, I tend not to win. I spent $50 on raffle tickets. I'm like stuffing the
They
box.
all went to the one box,
Yeah,
right?
I'm stuffing the box to try to win the Radian afterburner for my Glock 43X, which did not happen. And so why don't you pick it up from there? Because I know you guys knew that I really wanted that. I think you and Liza gave me your raffle tickets so I could further
Yes.
stuff.
And helped you fill them out.
I could further stuff that box, but that was not to be.
It was very obvious how you felt about that afterburner.
I really wanted to try it out.
There was no doubt.
Yeah.
And disappointingly did not win it.
Yep.
So I was speaking to my wife. We went out there with our spouses, which was great. And I was speaking to my wife about it because Leigh helps me out with so many things beyond this podcast that never get discussed, and have all the appreciation in the world, on top of being a combat veteran that fought for our country and family made sacrifices. So I was speaking to my wife, and I said, I think that we should look into possibly getting Leigh a gift while at the event, because he was so enamored with that. And she said, well, let's look into it, right? My wife's very supportive of all of this, which is, I can't thank her enough for. So the Sunday, after doing some volunteering and meeting other people, I decided to go over to the Radian booth and speak to some of the people, and I inquired about purchasing that as a gift for my friend. And that was when I first learned. I did not realize that most of the booths there weren't actually selling items. Nope. They weren't able to sell the items. So there was a little bit of joking back and forth about maybe offsetting some of the tab that was accumulated at the restaurant the night before, because it was at a sports bar, and it was a great event. So I'm sure there were a couple bar tabs that escalated. But then one of them asked if it was something that we could mention on the podcast.
So this is the crew at Radiant.
This is the crew at Radiant. And I told him, I said, yes, absolutely. Could even do a review of it, put it on our website on top of posting on Facebook. I told him, just so you know, they're 100% authentic. So if we don't like it, it's not going to be a positive review. Yep. And regardless of a discount, regardless of anything, I 100% will not compromise my value of being honest with any of it. And he said, that's fine. Confirmed again. He goes, you wouldn't mind talking about it on the podcast? And I said, no, 100%, as long as, and he said, well, we can't sell them here. And I said, well, I'm an honest person. Send me an invoice. Even if you want to call the factory now, or the shirt. He's like, it's Sunday. And I'm like, okay. Tomorrow. So like, and he said, listen, if you guys want to review it, why don't we gift one to you guys under marketing? And I was taken aback. My reason and motivation in approaching them was to not. Yeah. I was not trying to solicit.
You and I don't go in. I don't go into any of those places looking for a handout.
No, absolutely not.
I really don't care.
No. Yep. But explained a little bit about what we do, who you are, and they were so gracious and said, well, why don't we just gift you guys one? And I said, well, thank you so much. This is going to be a surprise. So it'll be relatively quick here, but I'll have to bring Leigh back here and let's surprise him. So I went and tracked you down at the USCCA booth where you were speaking with a young lady who also has a couple of great things coming out in terms of services and plans that we can probably talk about a little later, because we want to have Carl back on.
Yep.
And I secretly convinced you that I needed you to show me where Radian had their booth set up, because I wanted you to show me.
I should have known better that you couldn't find the Radian booth, like this big glowing yellow booth with
right
5 guys standing there.
Yeah. So I guess you can continue the story from there.
Yeah. Well, so I naively take Joe over to the Radian booth, and he wanted to see. He goes, I wanted to check out that afterburner, just to see what it was like. And that's not unusual for Joe to do. Like, he's a great supporter of mine, and he's always interested in the things I am, and I'm interested in a lot of things that Joe does as well. And so as friends, we just sort of, support each other a lot of times. And so I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, yeah, he just wants to see what I'm interested in. And so I take him down and I go to the point of the booth where the afterburner was hanging on the hook. And I'm like, it's gone. I'm like, it's gone. I was like, oh, well, that must be the one that they must have raffled, the one that they had here. That must have been the one in the raffle.
That you did not win.
That I did not win. And I turned around to tell Joe that, or I was in the process of telling Joe that. And the rep from Radiant is standing there, and he's got an afterburner in his hand with the barrel. And he's like handing it to me, and he goes, oh, is this the one you're looking for? Because that's yours. And then I froze for a moment or two.
The look on your face was
seriously.
fantastic.
He goes, like, seriously, that's yours. And I'm like, I was just like, I thought I was being like punked. I thought I was being pranked. And so I could feel my face start to get red.
Waiting for Ashton Kutcher to pop
Yeah,
out from somewhere he got punked.
I think the word I said, you're shitting me.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And they said, and then I look at all the Radiant guys, and they're like shaking their head up and down. They're like, yeah, it's yours, and so are you and Liza, and yeah, so I wound up scoring that afterburner with the ramjet barrel, and as we promised,
Yeah.
like that was very important to me that we live up to that promise,
Without a doubt.
and go out and do an unbiased review.
Mm-hmm.
And that unbiased review. Luckily, I didn't feel compromised because I would have felt pressure to be kind to them if it had sucked. Yeah. But that barrel and compensator combination is the opposite of suck. It's fantastic.
So before going out there, I purposely did not look into any of the claims on what they say it could do because I did not want that pre-programmed in my mind.
Yep.
I wanted to go into it with a completely neutral, unbiased, unfettered, just blank slate of opinions on that item.
So we decided to do a side-by-side comparison.
Yep. Each of us, right?
I brought the gun out. I lubed my stock barrel, brought it out, and we shot at about 6 to 7 yards. Mm-hmm. At a paper plate, so 6 to 8 inch target from 7 yards. Shot the stock barrel. And what were your impressions of shooting the Glock 43X with the stock barrel?
It was about what I expected, and mainly because I shot a Glock 43 plenty, so that one just acted very, very similar. But being an X platform, because I have large hands, that fit in my hand better. Mm-hmm. But in terms of feel and the way the firearm operated, it was about what I expected, and that is snappy, ran as Glocks do, right? Ran flawlessly.
Yeah, I had a mix mash of ammunition.
Yeah,
all of it ball,
mm-hmm.
but from 3 manufacturers at least. I know there was some CCI in that bag. I know that
some Winchester because I had a little bit of Winchester.
And I think there was one other. Oh, MagTech. There was some MagTech 9mm in there as well. And we were just picking up handfuls of rounds and stuff in magazines and shooting. You did, I think, 2 mags, and I did 2 mags as well.
Two or 3 on the stock, and then
we swapped barrels.
And what did that entail?
That was really simple.
Really simple, right?
Yep. Break down the firearm. New barrel goes in. And then there's a small set screw that attaches that compensator to the front of the barrel. Right. And sort of wedges that in place.
Just pay attention to the torque rating.
Yeah.
It does have a specific
15 inch pounds.
Yep.
And so I brought my torque wrench out, did that. It took all of 3 or 4 minutes.
While having a conversation?
Yep.
It
on the back of a pickup truck. Yep, not complicated at all.
Right.
Pretty easy to do. And then we went back and fired again. What was and group size? I would say, with the stock barrel, probably the size of our hand. Wouldn't you say?
I'd say that.
Approximately, maybe a little bit more than that.
Yep.
Mostly hits, 90, 98, 99% hits. We had one miss.
I had a flyer, and I'm going to blame the ammo. That definitely
and I
wasn't
think too,
me.
but
No.
I think
It
maybe
was
one or
probably
two.
me.
But seriously, and not it wasn't rapid fire or anything like that. Just
Right.
aimed fire at the 7 yards. All of them inside a paper plate. Not the greatest shooting I've ever done in my life, but decent enough. And and you have to work at it with that gun. It's just the
Absolutely.
just the way that particular gun is.
Right.
So yeah, go ahead with now your impressions from the compensated Radiant Arms Afterburner.
I'm pretty certain I smiled pretty quickly. And what I could say basically immediately noticed it's more enjoyable to shoot. I think I shot maybe a little bit better. It because the goal for me wasn't go out there and take all the measurements and pay attention to exactly what the spread was. I didn't want to make this a technical type.
Yeah, we weren't very scientific in that regard.
No.
But my impression was that your group was tighter, but that might be wrong.
What I wanted to measure was how it felt. And the reason I say that is because so many times when shooting a firearm, specifically self-defense type firearms, what is in your mind, whether it's confidence or lack of confidence, that can affect the way you're firing so drastically that is what I wanted to make note of, is how does this feel? And it felt great. It felt so much better. To this point right now, I still have not gone on their website to check any claims in terms of recoil reduction percentages or anything like that. But if I had to put a number on it, again, this is my mind and my thought on it is 35, maybe 40% less recoil. I think I shot about 20 rounds prior to the swap and about 24, 25 rounds afterwards. And it is not even close. Might as well throw the stock barrel away.
Yeah,
There's no reason to put it back on.
Yeah, no, I think my comment was it's changed the gun.
It changed the gun. When you got done and you turn around and go, change the gun, I'm like, that's the quote right there. That's what we need to remember. I have no idea any relationship, Radiant Weapons, to any relationship they may have with manufacturers, but that is the barrel that firearm should be sold with that barrel.
Yeah, it was crazy impressive, the difference in shooting that gun, and I'm so happy about it because every time I use it, there is an additional anxiety factor that it tells me, hey man, you've got to really be on your A game. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, if I do shoot in a training class, it's because I'm like demoing something that either went wrong. There's a lot of pressure.
Run a course,
like to
everybody's
be an
watching.
Instructor and everybody's watching. Everybody's got their eyes.
And you're supposed to be the expert.
And you're supposed to be the expert, right? And so then on top of that, I always have the additional, like, it's like, okay, like I'm shooting a 3-inch gun. Some people are shooting 5-inch guns. Right. Like, you better walk the walk.
Show up.
Yeah. And this will help me do that and feel so much more confident about it. I'm a human being like anybody else. And so I feel pressure. That pressure is good. I want to be able to perform under that pressure. Because the pressure under a self-defense situation will be a lot more than that, and this just lowers that so much. That 40% would be easy for me to say that's the difference that I would.
That's about where you think
I
that
think
came
so.
into?
Yeah, I think that's between 30 and 40 is what it seemed like to me.
Follow-up shots came so much easier, so much quicker.
Yeah, I wanted to shoot faster.
Right.
Just because it was just an easier shooting gun, which makes it more enjoyable, means I'm going to shoot it more.
So let's get to that, right?
Yep.
So when you have a firearm that is more enjoyable to shoot, and then it's more fun to shoot, and that happens to be the firearm that you are possibly at some point going to need to turn to or want to turn to protect and preserve your life or your family's life, when you have been able to shoot that firearm that much more and train that much more and practice that much more, because now it's fun to do and it's not something that you feel like you just have to put in the work, it's going to make it that much better for you in every aspect.
And thank you, Illinois gun laws, for taking away from a lot of shooters the ease of being able to put a compensated barrel on a gun and make them more accurate and safer, and want to train more. When they say that a lot of these gun laws only affect law-abiding people, that's a really good example of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with the new barrel, devoured everything just like the stock Glock barrel.
Yeah,
All the same. I fed from the same bag of ammunition with the mishmash of.
and we made the mental
various
note,
ammo.
just checking for extraction and the firearm, launched the casings about the same distance. There was a little pile of them. They were right in about the same spot. So feeding into the barrel and extracting from the barrel, everything ran flawlessly. I was so impressed with that barrel and compensator package that I was really excited to be able to talk about it. And we posted a review. I think we did that test like 3 days ago. Posted a review on it right away, where you can find it on our Facebook page and our website.
If does Radian make it for? Do you know? Do they make it for other subcompacts? I thought I may have saw for SIG 365, but I'm not sure.
I believe
about
the 360. There's several firearms. I believe they also make it for the Glock 19. So there's
well
several.
worth it. Like, I can't imagine how nice that would be to shoot on a 19. It'd be amazing.
If it improves every firearm the way it improved your 43X, some of these firearm manufacturers really need to think about getting in touch and partnering up and offering, honestly, offering their firearm to ship with that, because it makes the fire. Now, the one we've shot, it made the firearm that much better.
Yep. Thanks, Radian.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't thank you guys enough. That is our 100% unbiased opinion of the afterburner / ramjet device installed on the Glock 43X.
Good place to end it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everyone. See you on the next one.